All right. This podcast is brought to you by High Road Revolution and Freedom Fightwear. We have today with us our good friend and guest, Gannon Lang. Gannon, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. So when did you get back in town?
I think I've been in town for just about a week today, and it has been a whirlwind, as we were talking about before.
Yeah. So you got back a week from today. So tell everybody where you're at right now.
So right now, we are in Orange County. We are at your new location, right?
New location, yes.
So this is my first time being here, and it's an awesome facility. I mean, they have crazy amounts of parking out there, so plenty of space for you guys to come and check the spot out.
Yeah, so we're at Freedom Grappling here in Orange, Virginia right now. Gannon came all the way out from Legion out in California. Where's that in California?
In San Diego.
San Diego. Yeah, probably huge temperature difference, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I did not miss the seasons out here, that's for sure.
All right, so the last time we had Gannon on was right before he actually went out to be with Keenan Cornelius and train out there with Legion. So we're going to kind of discuss some things today about going out there and stuff like that. So how did they get started of getting the opportunity to go out to Legion and train with them?
So originally I won a raffle to go out there and just experience Legion. It was for International Lapel Day. A lot of people know that I've kind of been developing this guard system named the Anubis Guard, which is now all over Jiu-Jitsu X. And I went out there and I filmed and I kind of hit it off with a bunch of the guys. By the end of the week, I got the invite to move into the Legion Fighter House, and a couple months later, I ended up getting out there, and now the rest is kind of history. I've been out there for about a year now.
You had like a hard road that couple months of getting out there, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. Just between COVID and everything going on, like it was really difficult to kind of make the move out there. But it like you said, it took me probably 2 or 3 months. I was training with you, training with Dave, training with Colton Smith a little bit, and it was a weird little area right there where I didn't know whether I was going to get out there or not. But
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You were like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it.
Yeah.
You had like car troubles at one time too, right?
Yeah. Had some fool pull out in front of me, randomly blew through his stop sign and wrecked the car. But we have that all fixed now. He's paying me, which is great. Most people don't even get that. He tried to. So it was essentially he got a felony hit and run from that. So now I'm getting paid out like a couple $100 a month just from that, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's little income from getting hit. That's not bad. All right, so you make it out to California, right? Tell us about like the first day or the first week, I guess, in the Fighter House.
So first week in the Fighter House, I mean, there's a whole different set of people. But at first, when I went out there, I was experiencing just a crazy influx of talent. I mean, like we probably had no less than 20 full-time competitors, people that do jiu-jitsu for a living or want to do jiu-jitsu for a living, 20 to 25-year-olds that just live, breathe, sleep jiu-jitsu, people who have trained like 15 plus years at multiple different schools, people that are sponsored athletes, and not to mention we have people from all over that are really big names in the industry coming through and training with us, such as like Josh Hinger, PJ Barch, Paulo Miao, like all of the people that you see on Jiu-Jitsu X.
Yeah. So your first week there, how was everything taken? Was you kind of taken in immediately, or was it like was you the outsider coming in?
Honestly, everyone's been super friendly to me. Everyone gave me really good vibes when I first got there. I feel like I relatively fit in pretty well. I mean, I always thought that I belonged on the West Coast since a very early age. Everyone's been telling me, man, you need to get out to California, even before I got into jiu-jitsu. So it's a very surreal experience getting out there and being among the people that I've looked up to since I started jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Keenan's somebody you looked up to a lot whenever you first started. Like you played a lot of lapel guards. That was like your primary stuff was kind of based around lapel stuff. So I'm sure that was a big thrill for you getting out there.
Definitely.
Now the Fighter House, like, so what goes into the Fighter House? Do y'all Are you all paid to stay there, or kind of how does that work?
So originally that was how it was going to kind of play out, but then so Fighter's Choice was originally sponsoring the house, and that kind of fell by the wayside because they had some money issues because of COVID.
Yep.
So now pretty much how it goes is a lot of us, we wake up, we get to the gym. Like for example, I work at Legion, so I'm there from probably 8:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, just about. So some people there live there to just, nowadays it's a little bit different. In the beginning, everyone went early in the morning. We went there and we stayed there all day. Nowadays, it's like some of us will go and stay throughout the day. Some of us will just train once a day. But for the most part now, I think I'm probably the only person that is still there from the first day that I moved in. Like a lot of people go through there, just trying to find different opportunities to train at Legion and experience the jiu-jitsu in San Diego.
Yeah. And then they kind of go out and maybe do their own thing or
Exactly.
go branch out or whatever. Yeah. So you said you work at Legion now. So what are you doing out there at Legion now? What's your main job?
So my main job is probably the front desk, and then I also do social media for Legion. I do social media for Jiu-Jitsu X. I do the uke thing all over the place. I mean, a lot of people who are into the jujitsux.com platform, like you'll see me getting choked and all over the platform by like all of your favorite people out there. And I mean, 99.9% of the people that we've had out there are super nice. So I pretty much have a hand in just about everything that goes into Jiu-Jitsu X and Legion. And I can't really put my finger on which part of it is my favorite because everything is so cool to be involved in.
Yeah, I agree. And it's probably a lot to learn as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably only competed twice in the last calendar year, just kind of trying to focus on business and what I can do to kind of like brand myself as someone that is under Keenan Cornelius and Andres, and it's a different experience than being under really anyone else out there because they're doing a lot of things very differently from most of the schools. Like they run their gym like a corporation. It's very, very professional.
Okay. We're going to go back into that, but I want to go into, you said you couldn't put a finger on what's your favorite part, but we're talking about Jiu-Jitsu X, and you've been a uke for a lot of the people out there. You was on the John Calston. You were on a couple of them, but I remember the John Calstein one because I was a big fan of his coming up through the years as back when he was with the DDS, whenever it was, Eddie Cummins and Gordon and all of them. And John was with them, and he stepped in for a EBI that I believe Eddie fell out for,
right?
And he won the EBI. So I've been kind of a fan of his ever since then. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves.
No, yeah, he's a sleeper.
Yeah, he kind of he trains up in New York and kind of does his own thing, but I think he doesn't get near the recognition he deserves as a competitor. How much have you taken or learned from being a uke that you would never learn otherwise?
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's honestly half of the reason that I do it. It's literally a free private lesson from some of the best people in the world. Like that specific instructional that you're referring to, like John has one of the most detailed instructionals on the platform, and I use his Aoki lock details on a day-to-day basis right now. I literally it has changed the way that I look at leg locks in general because it's such a powerful technique that a lot of people don't see coming,
Yeah. I would say, like, I guess coming up through the ranks and stuff, that I've been very fortunate. I've always been, except for when I went to Dave's, I had always been the main uke for whatever school I was at because that's the way I fit in. Like when I was over here with Derek, I was his main uke because I was his first student. When I was with Robbie, I was his main uke because me and him were the closest, I guess you would say, in skill or whatever you want to have. And I was a good uke. But I think that's what taught me way more than ever, like, sitting by and learning a lesson.
Right.
Like, if you set me in a class and learn a formal lesson, like, I'm going to learn it, but you're never going to learn as good as you would if you're feeling it.
Right.
Like, if you're the uke behind it and you have to demonstrate the technique, I think you're going to learn exponentially faster than you would ever learn any otherwise. And like I said, you're getting to learn from some of the best people, and it's kind of going to probably explode your game. which right now is kind of hidden because you haven't been competing.
Right.
So when you step back on the competition stage, we're probably going to see a lot of stuff that we hadn't seen before, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a ridiculous level of expertise out there. Everyone just coming from the East Coast, you hear everything about these guys that are in San Diego, that it's the mecca of jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's not fake. It's completely real. I mean, every other person that you roll with, especially at Legion, they've won worlds. They've placed at worlds. They've won EBI or something like that. We have these household names coming through all the time, and a lot of the times after they film their instructional, they'll get on the mats, roll with you, hang out with you. So it's also really cool to just like pick their brains on like their mindsets for competition and training. And like you said, it's there's nothing like feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about like the areas and the different jiu-jitsu, like talking about California has, the mecca of jiu-jitsu. And I've always thought about that in competition ways. Like, depending on where you're going for competition, you kind of know what level of jiu-jitsu you're getting, right? Like, if you go, I would say Virginia's kind of like in the middle, right? If you go up to as far as New York, you can get high-level competition in New York.
Absolutely.
Like, I've had the Danaher guys compete for me, or now I guess the B team guys compete for me. We've had Ethan on. We've had Frank, which Frank is actually out of 50-50 now, if I'm not mistaken. We've had Nick Ortiz, which is also B team. We've had Damien, all of them that were with Danaher at the time that came down and competed for me at Freedom Grappling Invitational. And their jiu-jitsu level was much higher than you would expect coming from Virginia.
Absolutely.
And it's like the farther you go north, the higher you get, and the farther you go south. There's that middle ground that's like their jiu-jitsu is not great.
Exactly.
Like if you go to South, like I'm gonna get some hate for this, but if you go to like, let's say West Virginia, for example, right? Like I competed in West Virginia, and it was a joke. I took on like every medal there was. It was an open tournament. It was the West Virginia Grappling Games, I think, or Grappling Open, something like that. And the guy had messages. I believe you were here at the time too, because David messages, be like, "Hey, do y'all want to compete here or whatever?" And I had a super fight, and I won my super fight in like, I don't know, 47 seconds to a heel hook. It was a 50-50 heel hook. And he was like, "Hey, you drove this far. Do you want to just do every bracket?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. I'll do every bracket." So I pretty much wiped the whole.
You won like 9 matches that day, I remember.
Yeah, like the whole place out. I come on with like a pile of gold. But their level of jiu-jitsu, I don't mean to be upsetting about this, but their level of jiu-jitsu was terrible compared to what I was used to.
Right.
The same way when I went to my first super fight ever, I went from Virginia to Philly.
Ooh.
And I competed at Submission Arena Grappling, and my guy backed out. I had cut like 25, 30 pounds. Way too much for the time, especially my first match. I cut to 155, and I was right around 175, 180 at the time. And my guy backed out, so a blue belt from Henzo Gracie from New York stepped up. And he was a blue belt, but he wasn't a blue belt.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
He was one of them, right? He was one of them ones that they were holding back, and he beat the shit out of me. My first super fight ever, he wore me up and down the mats. But it was the level that I wasn't used to. It's like you have to go to them people if you want that level. Like when I went to Gary Tonin school back when it's Gary Tonin Jiu-Jitsu now, but it was Brunswick Jiu-Jitsu then. Like their level was much higher than what I was used to here in Virginia as well. And how much different do you think it is from here to there? Now, that's a totally different style too, I would say.
Yeah.
Like California has a different style of jiu-jitsu altogether, I believe.
Yeah.
Where like if you go certain areas, like I would say Virginia is more in certain parts is more of like a wrestling style of jiu-jitsu, where California is probably like a more technical style of jiu-jitsu. But I may be totally wrong in that. Go ahead.
No, I completely agree with that assessment. I think that I would say here is like land of the catch wrestler, grindy kind of like grit your teeth and get through it type jujitsu. Over there, it's like it's very beautiful jujitsu. It's like barambolos and dives and a lot of it's just prettier jujitsu out there, which I think just pretty much means they're more technical.
Yeah.
Right? I would compare the only place that I could really compare it on the East Coast is either New York or maybe some places in like Florida.
Yeah, Florida has a good jiu-jitsu scene. Depending on where you're at in Florida, they have a really good jiu-jitsu scene. There's a couple guys that have really good places down there. Josh Leduc, who runs Sapatero.
Right.
He has a great squad run a show down there. He's a great school, and they kind of combine the catch wrestling style and everything else. But then you have like Kevin Gallagher down here, and there's definitely some really good places in Florida. There's some really good places in Virginia too, but like I say, it's just a different style of jiu-jitsu. Like, and New York was a totally different style of jiu-jitsu, right? New York was like a lot of butterfly guard, a lot of leg lock kind of stuff, and that's where I learned a lot of my stuff was from either traveling up there and training with certain guys in the Philadelphia, New Jersey region, or learning from guys that were up in that region. Like a lot of the stuff I took from the Henzo guys.
Yeah.
And it was just different. It was different than what you don't normally see coming out of California. California, you didn't really see leg locks coming out.
No,
at that time.
I would say like over there, one of the biggest things that I found is there are many more gi purists out there than no gi purists. Out here, I would probably say it's probably 60-40, 70-30.
Yeah.
As far as like favoring no gi. Out there, I would flip it to the gi. So it's much harder to find good no-gi people unless you're going to a 10th Planet, or like there are people like Sloan that I train with, and Mike Salazar is phenomenal at his like very no-gi centric jiu-jitsu. So yeah, man, I would say that the closest people that I can think of on the East Coast, such as like maybe the like Unity style is very similar to over there.
Yeah.
Or maybe like the Bolo Bros, Nick and Danny have very beautiful jujitsu. So I think it's that was the biggest shift that I felt when I went over there.
Yeah, but I think that style fits you well anyway.
For sure.
You were already playing a Berimbolo type game and everything, a lot of lapel game, and you favored the gi more anyway, correct?
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely want to be like well-rounded, but what the biggest hole that I found in my game, assessing it before I went out there, was takedowns, which everyone is more well-versed in that over here, which is the opposite. It's funny, like I found that I didn't have the takedowns that people expected from me coming from the East Coast. When people think East Coast over there, they think like strong wrestlers.
Yeah.
But I linked up with Justin Flores, who's the Olympic judo coach, also like a phenomenal black belt in jiu-jitsu and a really amazing wrestler as well. So I've been working a lot with him and trying to fill in that gap. So that's one skill set that I really look forward to 2022 to kind of like sneaking people with that in competition.
Yeah, and you've Virginia's kind of like or just let's say East Coast in general is kind of known for wrestling in certain parts, especially around this in Pennsylvania. New Jersey. You know, if you go to a competition around here, you're going to get guys from Pennsylvania, New Jersey. You know, so you got to kind of have that wrestling background or be able to set guard and do what you need to do. Without there, I would assume it would probably be less wrestling and more
double guard pull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like not the round I came from at all. Of course, me and you've trained together many times. Like I was a no-gi purist.
Right.
And then I hated training the gi. I hate training the gi so bad. But I've grown to like it. Like I started training under Dave, and Dave's like, "Hey, you got to get in the gi." I was like, "Okay, I'll get in the gi." But I've grown to enjoy it. It's a different game.
For sure.
It's a slower paced game. You know, I'm not as young as I once was, so I can kind of like, get a grip and kind of, play technical. I still do like my no-gi game, I will say. So you dropped two instructional, but you dropped the last instructional was leg locksmith, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about like the era of leg locks from over there to here as well, because we're talking about like areas and things. So around here, around our area, probably me and you was the only ones really hitting leg locks hard.
Seriously.
And I was well known for it around the area. You were well known for it around the area. And there wasn't any really great guys from this area that would match that, right? So whenever you went to California, what was that like? Like, you started, was it like you immediately started leg locking people, or were they already privy to that? Like, were they already above that?
I would say that outside of like the people that I mentioned before, like Sloan and Mike Salazar, for the most part, before they started coaching around Legion, I was hitting heel hooks on pretty much anyone that I wanted to, and Miha as well. So Miha actually trained with the Death Squad, and he brought some of those out there. So I was shocked that. So I would say the people that weren't black belts, I could hit them pretty much at will, but there were a couple people out there that kept me honest, you know, and even hit them on me as well. So it's definitely it's a very wide variety of skill sets out there.
So they were kind of behind that time whenever you came over there. Where's it at now? Like if the West Coast now, I would say they're probably pretty up to snuff on everything
Big
now,
time,
right?
yeah. These Who's Number One events are kind of and just like the money in general in Nogi lately is kind of forcing people at the highest level to learn leg locks, right? Because if you don't understand the basics at least of getting out of them, you're screwed as far as making the big money with some of these events.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I think we've seen a rise in everything. Like you got the guys out there like Kyle Chambers he's out on the West Coast, right? He's super good at leg locks. You have a lot of the 10th Planet guys out there in California that are getting really super good at leg locks. But yeah, I don't think I think they came after the New York East Coast scene came in. I think they were still kind of not privy to it until the Who's Number Ones, the big competition started coming around. They were like, hey, we got to get it up. Now I think everybody's kind of even playing field.
And now IBJJF is allowing heel hooks and things like that. So it's like even the Brazilian crowd that was like, no, I will never learn heel hooks, or they just didn't see any value in it because they were IBJJF purists. Even they are now starting to learn them. So it's pretty cool to see the shift in styles just across the board with people, because now the people like us that have known it for a long time, these people that are just now kind of noobs that are like playing the leg lock game instead of just completely avoiding it, it's actually going to benefit us because we're going to be kind of a couple steps ahead of them.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was very lucky in my, let's say call it a career now because that's essentially what it is. But coming up through the ranks, I was very, very lucky that I had instructors that let me experiment. And I never had instructors that was like, hey, don't do that. Like the first instructor I ever had was a purple belt. He was an Army guy. He was traveling around. We opened up a school right down the road from here. He was only open for like 6 months. But I was his first student and his only student for a while. And we were rolling one day. We used to have gi and no gi days, but pretty much we just roll. Like he'd show me something, and he was from California. And he was heavy. He was like probably 220. But he had some of the most beautiful jiu-jitsu that I've ever seen. Kind of like you were saying, his hip switches and stuff, his Toriando passes were just something that you don't really see on the East Coast. Like it was a beautiful style of jiu-jitsu. So whenever you said that, it kind of rang the bell in my head. But I remember watching a video, and I don't remember what it was. I don't remember who it was. It might have been. I don't think it was the Donner guys. But it was somebody hitting a roll and toe hold, right? Mm-hmm. So the next day, like every white belt does, they come in and they're like try to smooth on their coach because that was my main training partner every time was my coach. And I was kind of lucky in that I had, a training partner way above me. And I started hitting that roll and toe hold on him, and I was like, oh, we got to go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And he didn't stop me. I feel like most coaches would stop you.
Yeah. I
was very lucky in that sentiment. And I think that goes well with my teaching now because if my students want to explore something, I let them explore. But I think there's a lot of cultism in jiu-jitsu where it's like, hey, don't do that or don't go to that school or something like that. How does that go out on the West Coast? Is there more of that? I don't want to say cult. That's not the correct word, but you understand what I'm getting at, right? Like you can only train here. This is how it is. More of a old school purist style.
Yeah, at Legion, I haven't experienced any of that. We welcome any and all people. I mean, like Keenan and Andres and Miha, they really do support every and anyone who comes in, and they don't give us any backlash as far as like branching out and going to places because they're confident and they know that we're going to come back.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way for jiu-jitsu to kind of move forward in general. And like for a very long time around this area, like there are some places that you know who I'm talking about. I don't even need to say who they are, but there are places around here that are very salty about people from different affiliations training with each other. And within the next couple years here, I mean, they're going to find some trouble because there's power in numbers. And we've been like all of the gym owners around here are kind of becoming much more friendly with each other. And soon, like at the end of the day, students are customers, right?
Exactly.
So if I walk into Walmart and I want something from Walmart and then I go to Target the next day, Walmart's not going to call me and be like, why did you go to Target?
Exactly.
So I think that
And that's the way it should be. I
yeah.
mean, it's you can't treat your customers like I've always said this, and then we're kind of getting into the realm of business, which I want to get into as well. But I've always said that, like, people get really upset when their students go somewhere else, whatever. Hey, the thing is someone once told me that you will eventually lose every student that you've ever had, and that's true. Like, eventually they're going to either outgrow you, outgrow the gym, have family issues, money issues, whatever. A lot of people never make it to black belt. A lot of people make it to blue belt and quit. You're going to have that. Like, you can't be upset about that. Like, this is people's lives. They're not you. They're a paying customer at the end of the day. I mean, we want to treat, here we have a very friendly environment, right? The people that want to compete, I push them to compete, or I push them to be the best they can in competition. I push them to compete. I push them to be the best they can in competition. But if we have our friendly person come in here, we're friendly to them. But if they come in one day and be like, hey, Jesse, I'm going to train at, wherever. Okay, go, have fun. All I usually say is, hey, if you learn something cool, let me know. Yeah, bring it back. Let me know. Let's make everybody better. Like, I don't care if you go down the road and train at, like, Gracie Shawtsville, which are good friends of mine. Like, you want to go up there and train, open mat, or take a class or whatever? I don't care, because I'm confident in what I put out. And if you want to go somewhere that's better for you, then that's better for you. You're at the end of the day, I can't be emotionally attached to it, right? It'd be kind of like, owning a Walmart and be emotionally attached to it if a toy went and got sold somewhere else. It's kind of dumb. But lo and behold, we had that mentality in jiu-jitsu in general, not just here, but everywhere. But me and you see it a lot in Virginia. Unfortunately, we've kind of been accustomed to it. But I think we're at a point now where we're kind of outgrowing that system. Like, so Team Tsunami, which we're all under John Awana out of California, we have now 4 locations. So I have 2 locations. I have one in Orange, and then I open another one in Culpeper next week for kids classes only. So I have this location here in Orange, and then I'll have a location at CrossFit Culpeper. And then Colton Smith owns the location in Listed 9, which is in Fredericksburg, right?
It's like northern Fredericksburg, Stafford line, something like
kind of around that area. And then Dave, which is my head coach, owns the school in Fredericksburg, High Road Jiu-Jitsu. So we have 4 locations in this little area. So it's like we're kind of like outgrowing that scene right now. Right. And we're all very friendly with each other. And then, Billy runs Gracie Fredericksburg, and we're on talking basis. Gracie Shawtsville guys, I love them to death. They've always been very good to me. So we're on talking base with them guys. So everybody around here now is pretty friendly, but you still have them outliers that we were talking about. They're like, "Oh, you can't train anywhere else." Like, I don't care, man. I was gifted to have instructors that let me train everywhere else, or I would have never learned what I learned. Like, I went up to Brunswick and learned from Gary Toten. Gary Toten wasn't there the day I went up, and some other guys were there, and I didn't know it at the time, but I think it might have been Damien that was teaching class that night. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was the guy who runs it now, Chris. But excellent teachers. But I would have never learned that style if I had not went up there.
Right.
Or like I went and I trained in Pennsylvania with Andrew Cockle and the team out of Valley Jiu-Jitsu. And super good people, super nice, very welcoming. And they had a different style of jiu-jitsu, and I would have never learned that if I wasn't there. So I'm a big proponent of traveling around schools and learning different things, because like you said, it's different styles. It's jiu-jitsu, but it's different styles of jiu-jitsu.
For sure.
The more you know, the better off you can be in competition. Speaking of competition, where are we at in 2022? Are we coming back to competition, or are we kind of going to do other things with jiu-jitsu?
So what my goal is to move back and reopen so before I had Nexus, right? And I'll get into like kind of the behind the scenes stuff with that, and why we kind of brought up this whole just having friends in the community situation. But my goal is to compete a whole bunch. I only competed 2 times this year and had success, but I definitely need to get back out there more. I've kind of spent this whole last year just kind of learning how to scale and grow a jiu-jitsu business. I want to reopen in a much better facility than I had before. No offense to the previous facility, and I'm still friends with them to this day. But I just kind of want to branch out on my own, you know.
It was an environment much like I have here, which is sometimes conflicting.
For sure.
We'll say. It was a good location for your needs at the time, but I think your needs going forward will be different. I think that's the best way to say that.
I want to, and I think we're pretty aligned on this, and pretty much all of Team Tsunami and myself and Billy as well. Like we just want to make Fredericksburg, Orange, Spotsylvania a place where people move to for jiu-jitsu instead of a place where jiu-jitsu goes to die. You know, we don't want to get students and hold them and say everyone back off.
Yeah.
And if you come into our area, we're going to try and bite your head off.
Yeah.
That's going to be a thing in the past pretty soon here.
Yeah, that's not the way I operate. Of course, that's not the way any of us operate. But I can't get over like people that act like that, because here at the end of the day, like how many people are in Fredericksburg? You know, let's say there's, I don't know how many people off the top of my head, but let's say there's 30,000 people in Fredericksburg, right? It doesn't matter how many jiu-jitsu schools you get out there, you're not getting all 30,000, right? There's plenty of people to go around as far as competition goes. So I don't really understand like that mindset. You know, it's not a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a place that it's already a niche environment. So you're not going to like, every school is going to be different. Like you're going to get different bases. Like if we talk about like, enlisted 9, let's say enlisted 9, they're going to get more of a competitive, I don't want to say meathead, but kind of that grindy action. Like that's their main student base.
For sure. They're more MMA-esque.
Right. That's their main student base. High Road is more of a family friendly environment. I would say they're very welcoming to everybody. They're very great at fundamentals. But you're not like that grindy thing is not going to, I mean, there's people that grind there with you. Now, I'm not saying there's not, but it's not that same environment, right? And then if you go to here, we kind of have a mixture. Like we're more of a big kids program. Like my kids program is my number one. So it's just different environments. I mean, we would love to have more adults, but we're just in the most rural county that we can get in right here. But I think every environment is different. So it doesn't really matter how many schools get in. Like it's different environments altogether.
Here's my thing. You know, like there's a very specific person or group of people, one in particular, you know who you are. When I was young, I was 21 when I started Nexus, right? And you made me an enemy. And that was not a good idea, you know? So moving forward, I'm going to obliterate you. And it was nothing personal to me until you made a call that was uncalled for. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that topic. But looking forward, yeah, man, I just want to have there are between 300 and 400,000 between Fredericksburg, Stafford, Spotsylvania, Orange, Fredericksburg, all like the surrounding counties.
Yeah.
There's more than enough people to go around. So to make me an enemy, it wasn't a good idea, especially with who I have behind me these days. And all I'm doing is trying to make as many friends as possible. And they tried to do the opposite. So like I said, moving forward, I'm trying to bring beautiful jiu-jitsu into the area and make as many friends as possible, get everyone better, and just aligned on the goal that I think we all have, which is make this place a place where it's not a lull between Florida and New York. There has to be something in between those two hotbeds for people to go to, right?
Agreed.
There's a very strong base of good schools in like North Carolina, South Carolina, like the US Grappling, rest in peace, Toro Cup people in that area. They have a very good kind of base for jiu-jitsu. I think that we can do the same thing around here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And we have all the same mindset to do that. So you said you plan on moving back here and reopening Nexus. I'm taking it right. So what is your plan to move back? When are you planning on coming back to the state? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? Or?
So ideally, what my long-term plan is, and with Keenan's blessing, of course, I mean, like I would like to get my black belt, and I would like to move back here and open Legion East Coast. So if that's cool with him, then that's what I want to do. If not, then I'll call it Nexus. But if I can, I would like to be the first affiliate of Legion and just kind of make it a hub for people that kind of move into this area from San Diego or vice versa. Like they always have a place that they can go if they're closer to one of the schools that we mentioned before, the Tsunami Gang, then that's cool with me as well. Like I just want to have people to have a lot of options in the area instead of just having one or two that they feel forced to go to.
Agree.
You know what I mean? Like if there's only one gas station in this area, they're only going to be able to go to one place. There needs to be healthy competition.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it'll be good for the area. I think we're already building really good stuff for the area. I think we've noticed a big shift in our area in Virginia. But anyway, let's get off the topic of our area. I want to talk to you about the thing that I think is most important. And of course, when I took this journey in jiu-jitsu, so I started out in MMA, and MMA just ate so much of my time up because you had to do jiu-jitsu, you had to wrestle, you had to do at the time I was doing American kickboxing and Muay Thai. Then you got to do your conditioning and cardio and strength training every once in a while. And I was eating so much time up to be good, and that's what you have to do to be good nowadays. Right. You have to know everything.
Yeah.
But my family was just like, it's too much because I was getting off work and I'd go train 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then I found in the realm of MMA, I found a love for jiu-jitsu, right? So I started competing in jiu-jitsu, started training only jiu-jitsu. I got out of MMA, which didn't hurt my feelings any really. At the time it did, but I was like, okay. I fell in love with jiu-jitsu and I kind of got into jiu-jitsu, but I always knew that jiu-jitsu competition would never pay the bills, right? And I think a lot of people get hung up thinking that, I'm going to be a jiu-jitsu athlete and that's going to pay all my bills. And they get out of the business side of things, right? I've opened so I run the Freedom Grappling Invitational, right? Which we've had some good shows. We had a show here a couple months ago now. We had a show in Florida, down in Sarasota with at Josh's school at North River Jiu-Jitsu. Then we had a show up at Method MMA in Maryland. And they've all done super well. I couldn't have asked for any more. And then, I own Freedom Fightwear, which we made Uke gear before. And I've kind of let that go here and there because, for one, I want it to be an American-made company. And when I went American-made, I was so distraught at the quality.
Yeah.
That I was very disappointed in the quality of American-made, and it kind of turned me off because I was like, if I can't be American-made, I don't want to be anything. Mm-hmm. But we're coming back with that this year. We're we're in the process of getting a new American distributor and getting that worked out. And I've opened the gym all during COVID, all with this going on. But I always had in the back of my mindset that business is what's going to make you money in jiu-jitsu. Like,
absolutely.
Teaching, coaching, seminars, instructionals, content, stuff like that. So, and I think me and you come from the same mindset, because I remember having talks with you years ago. Like we were sitting at the gym, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, you haven't been posting on Instagram lately, whatever." Like I remember strictly having that conversation, and now that's totally changed, right? Because you see the business side of things. Whenever you went out with Keenan and them, you kind of got exposed to the business side of things. So tell me how your mindset has changed to where now you're in the kind of the same mindset that people need to be in jiu-jitsu, right? Because look, guys, there's no money in jiu-jitsu competition. Like, you could be the greatest athlete in the world. Let's take Gordon Ryan, for example, right? No-gi Gordon Ryan. Even though he's probably, I would say, the best no-gi guy right now, right? I don't think really anybody could argue that, other than he hasn't been competing a lot lately. But even if he took all his money from his competition wins, he's not making any money on competition wins. He's making his money on instructions. He's making his money on other things, right? Guys, somebody needs to hear this. Like, you're not going to make your money competing. You're going to make your money off of things that you do other than competing, right? Instructional, seminars, things like that. Competition can bring you viewers.
Yeah.
That's going to allow you to buy that stuff. Like, if somebody goes out and puts out instructional, but you've never seen him compete, you might not ever buy his instructional. But they didn't make their money off of competing. They made their name off competing, which in turn they branded their name and made money off instructional seminars, stuff like that. But let's go into how are you thinking nowadays compared to how you were thinking whenever you ran Nexus and things like that.
So just kind of like bringing your point home about like how there's no money in competitive jiu-jitsu. Of course, I was only a purple belt at the time, but I was a super active competitor back in 2018 and 19. I haven't lost a competitive match since 2018, and my best year as far as money from jiu-jitsu has been this last year.
Where you competed twice.
Where I've competed 2 times, literally 2 times. I used to do that every month at least. So what I would say is, like you said, it's great for marketing, but the real money is going to come from being able to articulate yourself correctly, market yourself correctly, and actually give people value. People see Gordon Ryan making all of this money, all these huge purchases. If you think that the money that he's making, that Keenan's making, that any of these huge jiu-jitsu superstars are making is coming from competition, yes, they are making money, but it's nothing compared to the money that they're making off of instructionals, business deals, and things that are going on behind the scenes that the competition success might have led to, but they're not actually making money going to Worlds. Worlds still doesn't pay a dime. I didn't compete in Worlds this year because I don't value it. The only thing that would have done for me is push my brand forward. So as far as branding, competition's awesome. If you actually want to make money in jiu-jitsu, learn how to articulate yourself, learn how to give people value, learn how to actually give people a product. If you're selling a dream to someone, sometimes that can be valuable, but there has to be a light at the end of the tunnel, which for a lot of people is black belt or blue belt or whatever, or just being able to defend themselves. Like there are people out here that haven't competed a day in their life, and they're making more money off of their jiu-jitsu school than the biggest people in jiu-jitsu right now. The people that are winning worlds, the people that are on the world's podiums and winning these big super fights these days. You know?
Agreed. Like, I mean, if you take a guy like Danaher had excellent school, but he's never competed.
Of course, yeah.
And probably recognized as one of, if not the best coaches of no-gi jiu-jitsu
ever.
Yeah, ever. Yeah, in my opinion, one of the best.
Yeah.
If not the best. But guy never competed. But he knows how to articulate himself well.
Exactly.
He knows how to sell instructionals. So tell us about like the process of going behind and learning some of the business side of stuff at Legion, if you can. I don't know.
Yeah, there are certain things that like I am contractually obligated not to say, but as a general rule of thumb, if you want to learn how to run a business, you have to be involved in someone else's business, right? Yeah. You have to be willing to put in the 10, 12, whatever hours into someone else's business as somewhat of a internship, right? Like I'm willing to get paid minimum wage in order to learn how to run my business in the future. I didn't go out to Legion to be a world champion. I went out there to learn how to run a business successfully and learn how to brand myself, you know?
And I think that's the best mindset you could have, personally, now this is coming from a business guy, but personally, I think that's the best mindset you could have went out there with, right? Because at the end of the day, world champions are great, but world champion doesn't make you money.
Yeah.
I would love to bring jiu-jitsu competition money. And we've paid some guys some good money. Ethan Crowlston won 10 grand off our second show. But that's still, chump change in a pool, right? I would love to be able to bring big money into jiu-jitsu competition, but I don't think the world is ready for that right now. I think we need to get better at marketing, branding, getting known to the bigger masses, and I think that's coming. I think the no-gi side has kind of helped that. Definitely. Because it looks a little more exciting, right? Even though it's more relatable. Like say, even though like hardcore jiu-jitsu practitioners, we know what's going on. Yeah. And we were talking about this before we got on the podcast, right? About like 2 black belt matches, right? We know what's going on, but to your average layperson, do they know what's going on? Yeah. Or to them, does it look like, hey man, 2 guys are hugging, time to go, Where no-gi jiu-jitsu kind of looks a little more like wrestling, kind of looks a little more fun-paced. So it's kind of more viewer-friendly, I guess you would say.
I think it also goes back to if we're going to use IBJJF as the standard, right? Yeah. Black belt matches in IBJJF are 10 minutes long. No one can be exciting for 6 10-minute matches in one day, or even even 3, right? That's 30 minutes of rolling. Are you going to pack action into every single minute of that, sure, maybe if you're on steroids, I mean, which most of them are, like I won't lie, but like we have to be realistic. If we really want jiu-jitsu to be a spectator sports, make it 5 or 6 minutes and spread the action out over a day or two instead of packing 10 matches into one day. It just doesn't make sense for a viewer standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to watch, I agree with you. We run sub-only tournaments. Freedom
For sure.
Grappling runs sub-only tournaments. But I will be the first one to tell you they're not viewer-friendly for the most part. But this last show we had was very viewer-friendly. Every match was under 5 minutes. We got really, really, really lucky. It's kind of something that I looked at the beginning and said, do I want to be viewer-friendly or do I want to bring money to the athletes or do I want to see something? And I was kind of I don't want to say greedy, but I was kind of like thinking to myself, like, I just want to see awesome matches.
Yeah.
So I ran the sub only, and that's what we've been running sub only. We run a lot of bet matches, or let's say if Gannon was competing, he bet so and so $5,000. They both put their money up. Whoever wins the prize.
Yeah.
I love that style of jiu-jitsu,
Me too.
but it is not viewer friendly. I'll be the first one to admit it. It's very jiu-jitsu friendly, not viewer friendly. Viewer friendly, I do agree. 5-minute matches, even 4-minute matches.
Sure. Yeah.
That way you can go high pace the whole match, blow through. I do agree that would make it more viewer friendly, but I also agree the IBJJF shouldn't be the gold standard for what we look at in jiu-jitsu. They are, but I believe that's also holding the sport back.
I think we're also, I agree. And I also think that we're shifting away from that because if you look at like the who's number one style, I think that is better for viewers. But also like if I wanted to mention this before when you mentioned Ethan, like I was there for that event and don't forget, like he got 10 G's, but that's because he is the top 0.0001 of talent in jiu-jitsu. Like only those guys are going to be able to make that. So if you truly believe that you are that 0.0001 person, then maybe competition, that lifestyle is for you. But it's just not realistic for most people that love jiu-jitsu and do well at competitions. But it's like, think of that. Like there were how many people competing that day? 25, 30, something like that. And like 2 or 3 people walked away with money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or significant.
It was the whole squad. So we were on a quintet at the time, right? That was because you helped commentate on that show. So it was a 5-man team. So they all took away, I think it was like $2,000, something like that.
For sure. So, but you.
But at that
understand
point, but like the other show is just one person walked away with that money, right? So there's not the money in competition. But I think we need to get to a point where we can make money in competition. But that comes with branding, comes with marketing, comes with experience. So how did when you was here? How did your mindset change from going over there and kind of seeing, when did the light bulb click to say, hey, I need to learn how to market myself better? Was that after you moved to Legion and was like, hey, I need to do this because competition is not going to make me any money?
Yeah, I think it was kind of in the it was the week that I went out there that I essentially looked at as a tryout, right? So I went out there and I was like, okay, if I can hang with these guys, then I believe in myself as a world-class athlete. And I did. And I hung with those people, but then I sat there and realized that I'm going to have to keep up this pace of training 2 times a day, every single day for however many years, just to have the chance at those $10,000 prizes or $20,000 or whatever it is.
Where you're still living a very minuscule life.
Exactly. Or I could learn how to market myself correctly. I could learn how to run a business correctly, and I could make 6 figures in the future. Hopefully, Hopefully.
So let's tell everybody what we can do in jiu-jitsu, or even not even in jiu-jitsu, just in business in general, right? Because I'm always fascinated about opening other business ventures. Let's tell the people listening like what we can do to better market ourselves, better brand ourselves, better grow ourselves, and use ourselves as a brand. Because me personally, I think that's what's important, right? Not using a logo as a brand or anything else, but using yourself as a brand. Like if people see me, they see like in this area, hey, Freedom Grappling Invitational, this, but they see me in all of that, right? So how did you learn, or what do you think is the best way to market yourself, brand yourself, and be able to make money off of the name other than competitions?
So that's a great topic. So what I would say is, what I would ask the viewers is, what is something that is literally in your hand every single day, your phone, right? What are you doing on your phone? 90% of the time, you're on social media, right? So you need to learn the ins and outs of these outlets, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it may be. And it's moving into, I'm kind of into the crypto space. So like moving into the metaverse and like what is happening with Facebook right now and things like that. Like you have to look 5-10 years ahead and be aware of what's happening right now. Like the biggest change that I found when I went out to California was just like doing research on Instagram and how to grow on Instagram. I've already gained like 2,000 plus followers since I've been out there, and it's only been a year. So the talk that we had before I went out there was super important for me, because it's like I realized very quickly that you're right. Like I'm literally never going to be able to get my products, such as like my instructionals and things like that, into the hands or the eyes of people if they can't see me, right?
And that's a great point. And yeah, if nobody knows who you are, you could be the best teacher ever. You're never going to sell anything, right? And also on the flip side of that, like people get what we call imposter syndrome. Like, let's say there's a blue belt out there that's super good, or a purple belt out there that's super good. Well, maybe they're afraid to put out any information because they're like, people look down because I'm only a purple belt or a blue belt. You got to get past that.
Yeah.
You got to get past that stuff. There may be people look down on you, surely, but there also may be people that look up to you.
Right.
Like, there may be a ton of white belts that are like, dude, I want to learn from him.
Yeah.
There may be a ton of blue belts that look, I want to learn from him. There may be black belts and brown belts that want to learn from you as well, because look, in today's day and age, I mean, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. ADCC trials. Hey, blue belt, blue belt won trials.
Yeah.
Right? The blue belts of today are not the blue belts of 1990s.
Not even close.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are some blue belts now, purple belts now, that will absolutely wreck higher belts.
Absolutely.
Definitely not all higher belts. Don't get me wrong. There's different classes of higher belts, but you can't look down on these people anymore, right? I had a guy compete here, Sam Lambert. I was telling you about him, that competed against Colton on the super fight that I had here, or super match, whatever you want to call it. He did excellent, blue belt. I never told anybody he was a blue belt before he came, but he was a blue belt, and I'm like, and I told him, I was like, I'm gonna give you a chance, kid. He was like, okay. I was like,
it's about ability, not about belt, right? I mean, I started Nexus as a purple belt, and I had purple belts signing up at my gym, and I had brown belts coming in and wanting to learn from me. So it's not about your belt per se. It's about what level of that belt are you. The only what Andris Bernovskis has told me, and this has changed a lot of my views on belts in general. You are only the belt of yourself, right? So like you can be a black belt, but still worse than someone at a purple belt. But that black belt is a black belt level of themselves. There's no like standard, like you have to be this good to be a black belt. You are just much better, like infinitely better, more masterful of the art than you were 10 years ago.
yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point. I like that. So yeah, the guys that are blue belts and purple belts that are getting hit with this imposter syndrome, like, maybe I don't want to post on social media because people will like look down on me and things like that. Well, I have a saying, closed mouths never get fed.
Right.
Yeah, you could take a chance of people making fun of you, or people not wanting to see your stuff, or people down you on the internet. And maybe that's true, or maybe it's not, and people buy your stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I started the school as purple belt, still purple belt. We've been very successful, but I never had, like, you started your school before I started mine.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, this is,
if he can do it, so can I.
yeah.
Right.
And then Derek, when I first started jiu-jitsu, was a purple belt too. So I was like, he had a school, like, why can't I? We're kind of in an era now where it's like black belts are more likely to start school because there's more of them, obviously. And people do ask when they come to the door. Like, I'm sure you see at Nexus too, like, hey, what belt are you?
Of course.
But for the most part, man, people really don't care all that much. Like, you might get one or two.
They care about ability.
They care about ability instead, yeah. They
And
care
how
about
you
how
can
you
teach it to them.
how you
So
can
it goes
teach
back to like articulating what you want out of your students, right?
right.
Because like I've met 100 black belts that cannot articulate their techniques well, but I've met 100 purple and blue belts that can.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are getting sales as far as like instructionals or whatever they may be, or their services that they're providing. Like they have privates out the ass, you know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, you've been giving private lessons since you were a blue belt. Like
Yeah.
people do value you just being able to articulate, like people are the business,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you're a friendly person, if you can get people in the door and captivate their attention, that's ultimately the value that we're providing, right?
Yeah, it's customer service, really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I mean, it's being a people person, which I've had to learn to be a people person. My job or my job that was whatever you want to call it was kind of opposite, right? So I had to like not be a people person. So I've kind of had to change gears and learn to be better. But it's worked out well, man. We have a lot of kids here. I love our kids program. Me and you was talking to us before we came here. It's the highlight of my week every week. I would teach 100 kids to 10 adults any day. That's just what I enjoy doing. Now, if it was competition adults, it'd be a little different. I would like to teach more of a competition-based adult class, but we just don't have the time availability for it right now. So as far as business goes, we were talking about instructionals too. So we're talking about putting out instructionals, things like that. You've put out 2 instructionals this year. So how well have they done for you?
Oh man, they've done phenomenal. I mean, better than I expected them to do. I know that one of them is on the bestseller list for Jiu-Jitsu X, and I mean, there are some of the greatest black belts in the world, like on the site, and I'm a bestseller as some measly brown belt from Virginia, right? But I know how to brand myself. I know how to market myself, and I know how to articulate what I want out of my students, right? So I think just kind of like really driving that point home, like it does not matter your accolades per se. They do help. Like if you have a world champion that can also articulate, that's the dual combo. Like that's what's going to make you millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands or whatever you want. But you don't like in my mind as a business person, as someone who wants to make an excellent, like a crap load of money.
Yeah.
Like I value the things that are actually going to be valuable to my students. I think that people see the world champion and they think, oh, he has legacy, but if he can't capture his audience, he will literally get no sales. I've sold more than a lot, like I can't like really disclose exactly that, but I've sold more than some of the most popular people on the site as far as like their accolades. People who have won worlds and pans and blah, 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 blah. I don't have accolades like that, but I've sold more than them because I have a cult following. Yeah. I love you guys, but like I want you guys to be more of a cult than just random people that don't really give a crap about my journey and what I'm doing.
Now that probably started with your like Anubis Guard thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because people like really got into the lapel thing, and it was like, and I think that's what kind of got you off the map, right? Would you say so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So branding yourself, you talk about, hey, branding yourself is the most important thing. How would you tell somebody to go about branding themselves? If you had to tell somebody that didn't know anything about business, jiu-jitsu, whatever, hey, here's steps 1, 2, 3 of how to go about branding yourself and marketing yourself.
So first things first, you have to find your niche, right? Like what sets you apart from the other people in your industry? For me, it was Anubis Guard.
Yeah.
It was being good at people and being good at leg locks, right? So I kind of like took all of those, put them into one, and went from there. The second step would again be like learn what will get you in front of the people that could potentially buy your product. So that comes down to social media, making friends in high places, right? Like if you're a people person, it should make sense that you try to get in the social circle of people that are also people, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that was a lot of word vomit, but you want to position yourself in a place of good statute. Like you want to be an authority on your product, on your service. And then the third thing is just don't squander it. Like don't there's a big mistake that I've seen a lot of people, like once they get to that point, then they get really cocky and they think that they don't have to do anything. Like I'm fully aware that I haven't competed this year, but that doesn't mean that I've retired at 24. hard. You know, I know that I'm going to have to do another push if I'm going to be ultimately successful. So it's just like you have to cycle through it and every so often like reevaluate your position and say, what can I do better, instead of just being complacent and being cool with where you're at. Always have to upgrade.
Yeah, and we were talking about like the competition earlier. The competition is not what makes you millions of dollars. Being able to capitalize on the competition to brand yourself. I think personally, I think nobody does it better than Pedigo Submission.
Right. Yeah.
Them guys are phenomenal.
Yeah.
At having something that is so niche that people want to see it.
Right. And they have personality. That's something that is invaluable, especially in something like jiu-jitsu that isn't mainstream.
Yeah.
If you can set yourself apart, like literally look at Jacob Couch. Like the dude is clearly phenomenal at jiu-jitsu, but people don't love him just for his jiu-jitsu success. They love him, for example, like when he got the opportunity in Who's Number One. This is going to be a story that I feel is going to go down in history in the jiu-jitsu world. Like when he lost the match at Who's Number One, and then the person got hurt, I forget who it was, got injured, then he got the chance for the third place spot and he won $7,500. He gave money to that person who gave him the opportunity to get to the third place spot. That's just like a good guy move, and it made me a fan. It made other people a fan. You have to be human. Like you can't just say, here's my product, buy it. Like that's not realistic. Like people want to be a fan of you. People want to interact with you. Every DM that I get, I respond to. Like I'm not some dude who thinks that I'm holier than thou, that people can't reach out to me. And I always treat my fans with respect and like they're humans, instead of just letting their DMs get a favorite or like a fire emoji and I just like leave it at that. You know, I actually speak to people.
Yeah, I think that's them guys out there have it nailed down because they're showing the personality behind it, right?
Yeah.
I think somebody else that does it super well is Brandon McCatherine out of Decatur, Alabama. He runs 10th Planet Decatur. He runs. Have you ever watched the Professional Grappling Federation that he runs?
No.
So he does. I wish I would have marketed it, and I wish I would have had it before you did. I'm sorry, Brandon, but your idea was great, and I wish I had it before you did. Because he's a genius when it comes to it, right? So he took grappling events, and now he does the PGF, which is a season, right? So he tapes in a way that makes sense. But let's say it's a 16-week season, right? It's these grapplers, and they go head-to-head every week. Now, he tapes it in maybe a couple days, right? Yeah. So tape it in 5 days, puts it out over 16 weeks, so you kind of watch like a football game, right? Mm-hmm. So there's however many grapples. Let's say there's 10 grapples, just let's say. So you and I might compete next week, and then I compete against somebody else, and I compete against somebody else. We gain points for, like, a choke will bring so many points, a joint lock will bring so many points. If we finish inside of the first minute, it brings more points, things like that. And then whoever wins it in the season is whoever has the most points.
Gotcha.
And then it's a showdown between 1 and 2. But what they do in that that's so fucking brilliant is they put backstories of these guys.
Gotcha.
Like
it makes them human.
Yeah. So they'll compete, right, and then they'll go off, and Brandon will interview and be like, "Hey, so what do you think of the match?" You know, like let you come out with your own personality on it, right? And then people invest in the people, right? Because that's the big thing. Like people invest in people. Yeah. Like it doesn't really matter. Like everybody's interesting when you put them on TV or put them in front of a camera. Even the most uninteresting guy in the world, you're going to watch on Instagram or YouTube or whatever for 5 minutes. Like, and it makes you become a fan of. Like, they had some guys. They had Caleb Couch has been out there competed on a couple seasons. I think he goes back out and competes this season as well, if I'm not mistaken. He placed number 2, I think. Josh Gibbs is also from our area. He's from out of like Lynchburg area around Caleb and them. He competed for Brandon McCatherine and them on PGF. And so Brandon will put guys on there that are there to basically get dunked on. That's what he says, right?
I see.
So they're basically like white or blue belts to get dunked on. But what happens is you start investing in these people's personality, and then maybe they're getting dunked on all season. Yeah. You're still rooting for them because you're like, man, I like this guy.
You want the underdog.
And then they fucking win. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is awesome. Like you invest so much of your –
it's just like football.
Yeah, it's just like a sport.
That's so sick.
He's done it so well.
Dude, I want to get involved in that.
Yeah,
That's
Brandon McCaffrey has done an excellent job of doing that. And if we can get like everything around jiu-jitsu, and that, man, it would be awesome. My next venture is to do the Ultimate Fighter House grappler style.
Right.
So that's my next venture, is to take what Brandon's doing and kind of make it the Ultimate Fighter House, but for grappling.
Like a reality
jiu-jitsu show.
Yeah, man. That's the next step.
That's what I want to do. Somebody may beat me to it. If you're listening out there, hey, send some money back my way. But that's what I want to do, because I think it would sell.
Yeah.
And it would put personality into it, and not only that, but it would put people that's not into jiu-jitsu into watching it. Like,
Right.
even people who didn't want to watch jiu-jitsu would watch it. Like, people who don't watch UFC watch Ultimate Fighter.
Definitely.
Because the personalities get behind it. Like, you see the Nate Diaz came through there.
Yeah.
You see a lot of
the
Colton
Jimmy
Smith.
Brownings of the world to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Put me. I want to bang.
Yeah,
I want to bang, bro.
exactly.
Like, you still remember that, even though he's not a top name fighter, right?
And then you have Colton Smith over there, like, bro, stop it. But it's funny because, like, Colton Smith won that season, but everyone remembers, let me bang, bro.
Let me bang, bro.
From that season. Yeah. It's so funny.
And he's fighting at that guy's fighting at like some bare knuckle promotion now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a big name fighter, but you remember him because you remember his personality.
Right. And this is a really good learning moment. If he captured that and made it into a business venture, if he made merch or a like energy drink or something that he could attach that fame to, he would actually never have to fight again. I don't know what his financial situation is, but if he's a good businessman, if he knows what he's doing as far as branding, he would have millions of followers because everyone knows that. So it just takes one thing to go viral like that, and that's why content is king.
Yeah, if he would have had shirts out said "Let me bang, bro" right after that, people would have bought
millions.
Yeah,
millions
like people
right
are
there.
buying "Let's Go Brandon" shirts right now.
Yeah,
everywhere, right? Because one person said it, or however it went down. One person said it, and it went on. Like TikTok and things like that. Like they're a big thing now. People are like selling merch on TikTok all the time. Like there's a couple people I follow that have their own merch, and they're capitalizing on it. Man, I can't blame them for it. It's great marketing, great ability. Like I said, as far as jiu-jitsu goes, I will give it to Brandon McCaffrey all day, every day. That I think he's one of the best marketers in the game.
Yeah, that's genius. I mean,
not only is that, but his just marketing of a school in general. I mean, they're in Decatur, Alabama. They're not in a big location, but they're successful. They do great things. It shows that you don't have to be in a huge area to do great things.
Right.
We talked about the guys like Jacob Couchman. They're not in an area known for jiu-jitsu. Like, who would have ever known that area if it wasn't for them, right? So I'm kind of in that same boat here in Orange, and we're trying to make it out here. You don't think about Orange, Virginia as – you don't even think about Virginia as a jiu-jitsu school.
exactly.
The only school you would think about as jiu-jitsu whenever you think about Virginia would probably be like
50-50.
50-50, maybe Diego's.
Yeah.
In our area anyway. Like, you got the Virginia Beach, you have a little more out there. But Gustavo.
There's like don't get us wrong. Like there is jiu-jitsu out
Yeah.
here, but it's like we're talking about mainstream like flow grappling.
Yeah, there's
Like,
not except
isn't
for
one yet, and that's what we're trying
even
to change.
50-50 doesn't put out people there. Like there's good schools around here. Don't get us wrong. Like there's really good schools around here, but you don't see that around there. But I think people with business minded like me, and whenever you come back, I think we can really do a lot for that in this area as far as marketing goes and working together. And that's the best part about having a good network of people is, man, people are always like, I'm a self-made man. I'm a self-made man. No, you're not. Nobody's a self-made man. I don't care what anybody says. Somebody at some point in time gave you a chance. For me, that was Dave, who we both know is a good friend of both of ours. That was what gave me my chance, right? So for those of you who don't know me or Gannon or know our backstory, kind of, we met at a super fight right here in Orange, right? Dave, our good friend and owner of High Road, was cornering Gannon. Me and you were talking about, I think that was back when I was trying to run my first show.
Yeah, I remember.
So I was trying to run my first show, and I had Muhammad Ali and Tim Spriggs that were supposed to be competing, and then the commission stepped in. It was a bunch of a bunch of nonsense. The first show never happened. I had about postponed. But Dave called me a couple days later. He's like, "Hey, I want to help you out, do this." I was like, "What?" And at first, I was really skeptical. And I don't think people will really blame me for being skeptical because most time when somebody says, I want to help you out, you think, what do you want?
Yeah.
So I was like, so what do you need? What do you want me to do? You want me to represent the brand? Because he runs High Road Revolution. So like, you want me to represent the brand? He's like, no, I don't want anything from it. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. But the more I got to know the guy, he didn't want anything in return. He's just a good fucking dude. And without him taking a chance on me, I would have never been able to take the chance that I'm taking now. Because I would have never believed myself enough to say that, I guess. So I credit a lot of my success. And I know he doesn't want to hear it, but I credit a lot of my success to him for that. Because, yes, it was always in me to do things, but I didn't have the confidence that I had in myself until after he kind of believed in me. So if that makes sense. So what was your kind of thing that made you, start jumping in that world? How'd you get into it? Is it just something you like doing, or you're like, yeah, I'm gonna.
In jiu-jitsu or business?
In business.
In business, I think that, like, in my family, like, there is definitely, so I dropped out of college when I probably did, like, my first year, and then I got halfway through the next one, and I ended up dropping it, and that kind of pushed me in the direction of, like, okay, if I'm going to drop my essentially my future, because in my family, like, college is the way.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm the first kid, I'm the only kid pretty much in my extended family to not go to college and follow that path. So I got to eat, I got to get it. So I kind of did research on like jobs in the area, and there were none as far as jiu-jitsu. Right. So
True.
I had to create my own opportunities. I don't think that I'm a self-made man by a long shot. A lot of people have given me different chances and opportunities, including the one that I'm in right now with Keenan and at Legion. I think that's pretty much what pushed me towards it. Just like not wanting to. I don't want to say not want to be a disappointment, but kind of not want to be a disappointment to my family.
Yeah.
Like.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, for some people, that's their drive behind it. But for some people to sit there and say, I'm a self-made man, nobody ever helped me, I don't buy it.
Yeah,
I don't buy it. Somebody along some way helped you out enough to make you realize something, even if it was the smallest thing, helped you out enough to make you realize that you could be more than what you're being.
As far as just jiu-jitsu and like competing in general, my boy Jose Gonzalez, when I was a blue belt, I was like 8 months into jiu-jitsu or something like that. He sat me down. I was like, 17, 18, and he was like 24, 25, so how old I am now, looking at this 17-year-old, and he looked me in the face and he was like, you're going to be huge in this. You're going to do something in this, and you better not give up or I'll beat the shit out of you. Like he was very like blunt about it. I remember it very vividly. And that really set a fire under my ass to like prove him right.
Yeah.
Like that I could do something with this. And it just takes small things like that to like push you into the stratosphere as far as like what you believe you can do. Like you were mentioning with Dave, it's like, it just takes someone to believe in you sometimes.
Yeah. And make you believe in yourself kind of do. Yeah. I agree with that. We talked about business. We talked about jiu-jitsu. Let's talk about strength and conditioning stuff because you've gained a little bit of weight, right? You posted a picture the other day on Instagram. You're starting to get a little leg muscle behind you.
Trying.
So when I first met you, what do you think you was weighing?
140, maybe.
140. Yeah, you were little.
Yeah.
You were very little. Because I was probably pushing at the time. I think I was competing at like 175, 185, but I probably walked at 200. Right. I was pretty stout. What are you weighing right now?
I'm walking around at like 165.
Yeah, so you've gained a considerable amount of weight, but not fat, right? Strength and conditioning.
Not too much.
So you did a little bit of strength and conditioning when you was here.
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
But what changed?
Honestly.
What are you doing differently?
So my girlfriend Zanetta, if I'm not working out almost every day, she's on my ass. So I think it just like took someone to hold me accountable to it. And I really had no excuse not to, because it's like I'm out there to get better in all aspects, right? And I think it was a how do I put this? Like it was necessary for the level of jiu-jitsu that I want to be able to compete at. I know that these guys are on steroids. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And I want to push against that and not I don't want to get thrown around by people in my weight class, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of just being the weakest person in my division. And I've always thought, like, I didn't want to give myself the excuse that guy's just stronger than me. If I can be the strongest and the most technical and the most talented in my division, there's no excuse to lose, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
all
agree.
all it comes down to is evening that playing field, you know?
Yeah. And that's something that, so I know me and you've talked about this a little bit, but I've pretty much taken off competition this year to open the gym, run the gym. And I really didn't feel like I could give back to my classes as much as I was competing. And I'm sure you probably felt the same way when you was at Nexus. Like,
Yeah.
if you was competing, you'd probably be in a different mindset than you would be if you were coaching.
Yeah.
So I kind of took the year off and really focused on coaching, learning to coach better, and things like that, and building my brand, building my other streams of income. And I took the year off, but when I took the year off, there's always been in my opinion, a misconception in jiu-jitsu is like, no, don't use strength, don't use strength, don't use strength. I've always been a fairly strong guy, and I always hated that sentiment because if both has equal technique, like if me and you were competing, we were both 200 pounds, we had equal technique, equal speed, but you were stronger than me. That's going to play it. It's going to play an advantage. But people for years and years and years in jiu-jitsu was like, strength doesn't matter. Strength doesn't matter. That's bullshit.
That's cute. I mean, look at Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean,
Galvo.
yeah.
God, what is Paul Harris? God, used to kill people.
Jesus
Look at him.
Christ, dude. He's
looks like a roided up gorilla.
Of course.
You know, he's huge.
I mean, like, just being realistic, pretty much everyone you just mentioned is clearly on steroids. But like, let's say we took a steroided Gordon Ryan against a non-steroided Gordon Ryan. Yes, their technique are both phenomenal. Do not get me wrong, but I don't think that 185-pound Gordon Ryan would do as well as the 230-pound Gordon Ryan.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I completely agree with you, man. And that was my original influence on just like getting stronger in general. Like I started jiu-jitsu at 125 pounds. So I'm always used to being the smallest guy. So now being at 165, like I found it is paid in dividends. Like going to open mats and not feeling like I have to be afraid of rolling with the people that are 185, 200 pounds is so nice. And I've broadened my horizons as far as training partners. You know, and to me, that just makes it better because and just having muscle in general is more attractive, you know, like
you feel better, you look better. Yeah. So one thing I did this year is, so I was looking at that conception of jiu-jitsu and I was like, I want to change that. So I hired Bobby Thompson, which is the 9th strongest man in the world right now. He plays 9th at World's Strongest Man, and he lives in Fredericksburg. Super great guy. So my whole plan of 2022 is to come back with I'm going to compete in strongman and jiu-jitsu, but it's going to be able to bring strength into jiu-jitsu and be able to use it for good and not use it just to muscle around, but use technique with strength and just see where we lay.
Yeah.
You know, see what happens and kind of see what we can do. So that's kind of my game plan for 2022 as far as competition goes. Like I said, that's not my main motivator at all, but I think it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely.
Because right now I'm in jiu-jitsu terms, right now I'm extremely strong.
Mm-hmm.
In jiu-jitsu terms, in strongman terms, I'm not, right? Like I'm decent for my weight, but I'm nothing. Like I'm still novice, like way below novice, right? But in jiu-jitsu terms, like you don't see.
Oh, dude, even before you started doing your strongman thing, you were always naturally throwing my dumb ass around.
Well, you were also way smaller than me at the point, but yeah, I always had like a little bit of strength behind me, especially in the grips and stuff like that. But I'm really excited to see the package that comes in 2022. And me and Bobby we just sat down and worked over the makings of an instructional for strength for grapplers.
Nice.
DVD/seminar tour. So hopefully we'll be doing some seminar tours, and then the DVD or instructional as well. We got to figure out what branch we want to market through, who we want to go through. We looked at maybe trying to put something out through Fanatics, but I don't know if that's the route that we want to go.
Well, hey, maybe we can talk about getting you guys on Jiu-Jitsu X or something.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to sit down and discuss, business stuff as far as that goes. I don't know which route we're going to go yet. It depends, but we've worked out some really phenomenal stuff for strength for grapplers, and I think it's going to hit really well because I think that's a new wave that's coming too. Is like these guys that are coming in, or a lot of physicality starting to play in the movie game.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
just jiu-jitsu in general. I mean, like I always go back to Gordon Ryan because he's had such a meteoric rise. And looking at him as someone who used to be what I weigh right now to where he is now, it's just like it's a significant difference. Of course, his technique is beautiful. It's awesome. But the oomph behind it is also a tremendous factor.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And he's probably, we were talking about marketing yourself. He was probably he probably is the best right now at marketing himself.
He took the Chael Sonnen approach,
Yeah.
He's not afraid of being the bad guy.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Jiu-jitsu needs it to a point. like depending on how close to the MMA.
He said some pretty bad shit this week.
Oh yeah. What?
Yeah. So I guess Herbert and him had
I saw that. Yeah. See, there is a line, and I think he's beginning to toe it.
Yeah. He said something about I think I didn't really see the whole thing, but I think Herbert had his daughter maybe up here, and Gordon commented, "Hey, nice ass" or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's a no-go.
Bringing kids into it is a step too far.
Well, even saying anything like that towards a kid is immediately boom, you're crossed out of my book. That was a really disgusting thing to say. But before all that, I think he done a phenomenal job marketing himself. That kind of drew the line for me. It's this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And everybody's jumping on Herbert said this, Herbert said that. Yeah, I agree. Herbert says some things, but we all know Herbert's that person. We all know he's
people already knew he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, nobody's clamoring for his. He's already ruined. Yeah, he's already ruined his whole brand years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that was a damaging thing to Gordon's brand. Now, I don't know, but it certainly crossed the line with me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But as far as marketing himself before all that, he took the Chael Sonnen approach. Not afraid to really say what he wanted to say, be the bad guy. I would say now the top marketer, I would have to say though, Craig Jones.
Craig is amazing. But
because he doesn't care. He's a national landmark, man. He's so funny.
Yeah.
And he's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
With what he posts. And it's you gotta watch it.
Craig long term is going to be so much more successful in my opinion because he's a likable guy.
Yes.
He's going to have other revenue streams other than his jiu-jitsu instructionals. People are going to want to train under him.
Yeah.
Not just because he's good at jiu-jitsu, but because he's a funny, personable dude.
Yeah. What his last thing was? Power bottom. That was his instructional.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's amazing.
And him and Gabby's whole spiel was hilarious too.
Oh man.
Yeah, he does an excellent job marketing himself. I can't say anything more about that. Like I said, the Pedigo guys do a fabulous job marketing himself. Out of nowhere too. Did anybody really know about them 10 years ago, 5 years ago even? I didn't.
No. They also are very good at what they do. Their jiu-jitsu is top notch.
Now they have Mikey training out there.
It's only going to get better for them and worse for everyone else, having that crazy room. And honestly, the more star power they get in there, the more coverage they're going to get. It's just the ball is rolling and it's going to keep rolling. It's going to snowball.
I love how they train is exactly how I like to train, but it's hard to sell that kind of training.
For sure.
So they train in a very gritty environment. If you've ever watched their series on on YouTube or whatever, they train in a very gritty environment. It's an old laundromat, right? Mm-hmm. And it's they sleep on the mats. Yeah. Most of them do. Some of them, I think one of them has a shed out back that he sleeps in or something.
They're cuddling possums and stuff.
Yeah, I think now that they've gotten more notoriety, I think some of them actually sleep in their houses and stuff. But when they first started, they were definitely all sleeping on the mats, and it was a really rough, gritty environment, which I love. But if I was going to sell that to 15 kids coming to the door, it probably wouldn't sell very well. Mm-hmm. But I would love to be in that environment. I think that's what atoned to me. I was that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
that environment,
that
grit. Yeah, it is. I think people want to be a part of that camaraderie, that that brotherhood. And I think that's like another big thing in jiu-jitsu too. Like,
Right.
if you're going to open a gym, like when I was coming up in jiu-jitsu, like I would go to different gyms for open mats and stuff, and I hated at the time people sitting around the mats talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, dude, because I was one of them people, like, I was busting my ass every day. I was training, when I first started, I was training 2-3 times a day, every day. And if I wasn't rolling, I was doing something. Like, if I wasn't on the mats rolling, I was gone.
Yeah.
I wasn't sitting there talking. But I think, as I've gotten a little older and a little wiser, I think that's a key part to jiu-jitsu is the
Creates a
camaraderie.
culture.
Yeah, the culture,
Yeah.
the camaraderie, the networking, because there's a wide variety of people that do jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely. All of my friends are involved in jiu-jitsu at this point.
Yeah.
All of my friends.
Most of mine are too. Yeah.
So it's like at this point, I mean, I couldn't imagine a place that because I was exactly the same when I was 17. It's like if I wasn't training, I was out of there.
Yeah.
But now looking at it, especially from a business position, like if you don't have culture in your gym, if it's just training,
You don't have it.
Good
Yeah.
luck. I mean, the best gyms in the world have a very strong culture.
Yeah.
Like Legion has a culture, Pedigo has a culture,
Yeah.
Atos has a culture. Like these aren't all just competition gyms,
Yeah, agreed.
even though they're successful in competition.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times that's how you know the guys, but that's not their culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I met the some of the Donaher guys that came from New York at my first show, I was kind of their culture was they were every one of them that I met was very articulate in how they talked. Like they all spoke the same. Like if they were on the side of the mats, and you commentated one show with me, they were on the side of the mats coaching their teammate. They all spoke the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they were very good at being uniform in that. But they also have like a culture. They played around a lot. Like that was their culture. They was all very goofy.
Yeah.
Like Nick and them. Nick's probably one of the most personable characters I've met out of that school.
Yeah.
Nick
He's
Ortiz
entertaining.
is very. He was entertaining. I like the cat. And people get behind stuff like that, man. I think that's what makes the 10th planet system so good as well. Is like people like the culture behind the 10th planet. Like
For
you
sure.
get your people that's the culture they enjoy.
Yeah.
And looking back as I'm older and a business owner, I understand now what I didn't understand then. Like then I hated the culture behind it. I was like, if you're not training, you
This
get
is
out of the way.
annoying.
Like
Yeah.
this is aggravating me because I'm trying to train to be a world champion. And then you look at it older and you're like, this is kind of a stupid way to look at things, Because now, like you said, most of my friends are people that do jiu-jitsu or people that have done jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like that is my main network. Like I have one or two friends still from, school or whatever, but my main majority of people are people that do jiu-jitsu.
Right. And it's like if you actually want to expand your business and make more money, trust me, you're going to need friends and you're going to need people around you that kind of understand you and how you work and your skills and what you can offer people that you don't know. Most of my seminar opportunities have come through word of mouth from people that I met through Instagram, had a conversation with them. I saw them at a tournament. I had a conversation with them and they're like, yo, my friend has a school and he really wants to have you come out and do a seminar. It's like easy as pie.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where did you do seminars at this go around? Do you have any more left before you leave?
Yeah. So I have a seminar tomorrow at Breakaway Jiu-Jitsu in Newport News.
Okay.
And then I have one at Augusta Combat Systems.
With Chris?
Yeah. And dude, I mean, I remember I met him at a tournament that
CVL Pro, yep.
Yeah, man, that was like years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like he just reached out to me a couple weeks ago and he was like, hey man, I have this new thing going on. I would like to have you come out. And I was like, awesome. I remember you. You were a cool dude. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I think I think Ari trains out there a little bit nowadays too. So they all did train at CVL Jiu-Jitsu, but I think they've all kind of like a lot of them have
Dispersed.
ventured off. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because Tim Carrico, I don't know if you ever met him, he opened up his own school in Lake Monticello.
Oh, okay.
Called Lake Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, there's been a big influx of schools open up around the area in the last year. Like I said, you have me, you have of course Gracie Charlottesville is older now, but they've only been in the area for like 3 years. You have Lake Jiu-Jitsu, you have Augusta Combat. Yes, there's been an influx of people moving into the area, which is good.
Yeah, I think it was like, it was right around what, like 10, maybe 15 years ago, a couple of like starting schools came around here, and now everyone's kind of starting to shift towards that purple, brown, and black belt,
Yeah.
and now we're starting to branch out.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, and we're starting to kind of the ones that are more business minded are kind of going out and branching out.
Yeah, now there's such a crazy opportunity because jujitsu is like, there's opportunity to actually make money in jujitsu where there wasn't before, because it wasn't marketable to the general public. Like, it was too violent and
Yeah.
grimy, and it's only for the people like us that like live, eat, and breathe and shit this stuff. But we need the soccer moms and the kids to like get into it and have the moms and dads feel like it's a safe environment for them. So that culture shift has also kind of opened up the ability for business-minded people like us to actually do this.
Yeah, I really enjoy the business aspect of it.
It's very interesting.
I think the younger generation that are coming up, like around this area in particular, but definitely all around the world, that are more business minded, more social media minded, stuff like that. I think we'll be able to get it more out to the vast public than they were ever able to 10, 20 years ago. So I'm really looking forward to the influx of jiu-jitsu around the community. And I think Virginia is going to grow a lot, but I think the whole world's going to grow a lot as well in the next couple of years, as long as we don't get too watered down. I kind of fear, so we allow cops to train here for free, and I know Dave does a high road, but I've kind of found something that I don't know what I'm going to do about it yet. So we don't charge. I have never charged a cop anything in here, right? But they don't show up, right?
There has to be accountability.
So yeah, so we're kind of debating if we're going to go to like or I'm kind of debating if I'm going to go to like hey, it's this much a month, but if you show up, we'll take this much off.
Right.
Until it equals 0 if you show up every day that you're supposed to show up. So we're kind of trying to trying to get everybody involved. But man, it's hard, man. People, if you don't pay for something, you don't see the value in it.
Right.
And I think I'm learning that more in the business side of things.
But yeah, you have to hold them accountable, have to incentivize them to kind of like, in the beginning, you have to almost trick people into eventually realizing that this is important for your life. You know, this is something that's valuable to you. In the beginning, it's like, it all seems like a wushu master kind of like something that's like karate or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what the point I was going to with the cop thing, and we kind of got off track, but I'm glad you brought that point because it brought us back on. So with the cop thing, when I said I hope it doesn't get watered down and end up like karate or taekwondo or whatever else, is because now they're starting to mandate police departments for jiu-jitsu, which I like as a jiu-jitsu athlete. I'm like, this is great. This is what they need. But a part of me also fears they're going to start watering down stuff, because I think a lot of departments are going to be like, I think a lot of them are mandating that cops have to get their blue belt, right? So now we're just going to be a blue belt requirement. It's going to be a 2-week requirement to get your blue belt, where it used to be you might be in for years before you get your blue belt. So that kind of worries me a little bit. I hope we stay out of that zone. I hope they don't water it down for that purpose.
Yeah, if that starts to happen, then that's going to be something we're absolutely going to need to address, especially if it's going to be happening here in the area. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were going to start requiring that, but that's
It's
good. And
not in our area, but in the United States in general. Like Marietta, Georgia requires their officers train jiu-jitsu. I think in New Jersey just adapted GST, which is great survival tactics, which all these things are good if you teach them like you would teach jiu-jitsu and not water them down and make them, I'm not trying to badmouth karate or taekwondo, but it's kind of so watered down that everybody has an 8-year-old that has a black belt.
Mm-hmm.
So when they walk into a jiu-jitsu school, adults will ask you all the time, they're like, oh yeah, my nephew's a 3rd-degree black belt. He's 13 years old.
Why are you a purple belt?
It's like, not the same thing,
Yeah.
bro. Like, not even close to the same thing.
Exactly.
So I really hope jiu-jitsu doesn't get to that level. All right. Let's tell everybody what you got going on, looking forward to in the future. So you have any instructionals coming out or anything like that? What are your...
So I'm currently working on a curriculum for my future school. So there's going to be a white belt and a blue belt curriculum, and I'm going to film everything that this is actually probably good for that, what we just talked about, Like there has to be a baseline, right? Like something that I
Yes.
think a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, even to this day, kind of lack in is a structure, but at the same time making it difficult enough to keep them honest. So that's what I'm working on. I'm also working on a turtle instructional, and I'm also working on a lasso instructional.
Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff in the works, but my main goal is getting my black belt, moving back here, and kind of getting everything up and running. But yeah, and that's pretty much my whole 2022 plan, other than competing.
Other than competing.
How about you?
So right now like I said, we're working on the strength to grappling stuff, or the strength for grappling stuff, and we'll get that. We got to figure out how to market it and what we're going to do with that. So we're still in the very early stages of planning for that. I'm recovered from knee surgery right now, so I just had double meniscus repair 7 weeks and 4 days ago now, because I went to the doctor today. So 7 weeks and 4 days ago. He cleared me today to start doing some lower body fitness stuff. So I've been lifting, like I've been doing a gym bro workout style for like the last 6 weeks or 7 weeks, because I haven't been able to do any lower body. So I've been like bench pressing again. Well, I wasn't bench pressing at all because strongman doesn't do any bench pressing. So I was doing all overhead, but I couldn't do overhead because of my legs. So I was doing all benching. So I'm excited to like get out of that and start getting back into my sandbag training and stuff like that. I love sandbag training. I love heavy yoke training, carry stuff like that. So I'm very excited to get past that. And maybe we'll start competing in strongman as soon as we get healed up. So we're right on the cusp of January now. So maybe March we'll look at, and then probably jiu-jitsu competition at the same time.
Awesome.
So I was offered a super fight at Ironman Grappling up in Connecticut, and I've competed for them before. I would love to compete for them again, but I don't know if I'll be ready for it. That'll be, if I do take it, it'll be against a linebacker from Villanova.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's
It's a big boy.
it's gonna be a grindy first match back. So I don't know if the knee's gonna be ready for it, but we're gonna see what the physical therapist says. If he thinks it's ready, I'm gonna go ahead and take it.
Awesome.
Because there's another thing I don't agree with in jiu-jitsu. People are like, who's the match against? Who's the match against? Oh, I don't want to. Who's the match against? I don't really give a shit who the match is against.
I've never turned down a super
I'm
fight.
not going to turn down a match. It's jiu-jitsu. What's the worst thing that can happen? I get my shit broken? Okay, I'm going to live.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow. Okay?
Right.
It's not MMA where, you have to worry about somebody pounding your face in.
Yeah.
24/7. I'll probably be a little more particular about who I choose in MMA. Like,
Definitely.
yeah, I don't want that guy.
Absolutely.
But in jiu-jitsu, like, I don't understand the people that are like, they're so picky about their matches. I don't care who you can put me up against a 400-pound Gordon Ryan. Will he beat me? Absolutely. I'm still going to compete. Like,
Sure.
It doesn't hurt my ego. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have that issue, I guess. I'm very lucky in that manner. I don't have to worry about that. But I see that all the time, like when I run shows. So people are like, I don't want to compete against him. I'm like, that's stupid.
Dude, I've had
Pull out.
bro. I have had like the only time I've ever not taken a super fight is if I literally cannot be there on the day. Like if I think you offered me one before, and that was literally the day I was flying out to California, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I think that was the only time that I couldn't do a super fight, but I've never been available to do one and been like, nah, I don't want that fight because I'm afraid of him.
I think I
essentially
tried to
what
set
he's
you up with
saying.
Chris Crawford.
Oh yeah, but
guy
it was
before.
also a weight thing. He's like much smaller than me, but I would have taken it. I don't care.
Yeah, I think he was like 135.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, like in the future, I'm definitely down to make it happen. It's really like it sucks, especially being the guy who's always down for it, because I had a situation where I could have made like $500 to $1,000 while I was here extra to do a super fight. I had 3 people pull out.
Yeah, it's very aggravating.
Brown and black belts. Like it was very it sucks,
Yeah,
It sucks to see.
as a promoter, I can tell you it's our last show here that we had Colton headlining it, and there was like 4 pullouts the night before.
Holy crap.
Or
Bro.
within 48 hours there were
They're like
pullouts.
They're like, yes, and then they look them up on YouTube. They're like, no.
It wasn't Colton. Like there was only one person pulled out from Colton, and that wasn't due to his fault. That was because of COVID.
Oh yeah.
But no, they were like lower fights. They were like fights that didn't really like blue belt and white belt. Like who cares
Yeah.
what your blue belt record
It's
is?
just
Like
experience.
I
bro.
was competing against a
Experience.
gorilla
Yeah.
at blue belt. Like I don't give a shit. Like it's not my record doesn't matter. It's like an amateur MMA record. It doesn't matter. Go out, compete, experience, right?
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell all the guys that competed for me that night. I was like, look, here's something you need to know about jiu-jitsu competition. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you win.
Right.
It matters if you're, as a promoter, I don't care if you win. That's not what does it for me. What does it for me is if you're exciting.
Yeah.
If you're exciting, I'll bring you back even if you get your ass
Bring
kicked
tickets.
every time. Because you bring tickets and you bring viewers.
Yeah.
If you win and that's all you do is win, but you don't have any showmanship, you don't have any exciting matches, I'm probably not going to bring you back because you didn't bring any value.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's like, winning is value. But it's not.
No.
There's so many more marketable
Not to unless you're winning in fantastic style.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
it's like if you're highlight reeling just about everyone, then it makes sense.
That's
because
showmanship, right?
it's showmanship.
Yeah, that's markability.
Exactly.
If you're just winning and walking off the match and leaving right afterwards, that does
You're
not
kind of
work.
like edging out like small
Yeah.
victories and things like that. It's like no one's gonna want to bring you out. Like if you want to get paid to show, especially in jiu-jitsu, bro, you better be bussing on these fools.
Yeah, I think that's something that I really didn't do in my earlier career, but when I started running shows, I realized that like, hey, because I would like in no gi, especially sub only matches, like you can kind of chill out in some position to get your breath, and like, okay, I'm gonna ride this out for a minute and then I'll attack. I'm gonna ride it out for a minute and attack, but it looks very boring. But I didn't realize that until I started running shows. Like, I should have just put it all on the line. Fuck, if I lose, I lose. But at least I was excited.
Right.
But I didn't realize that at the time. I was young and dumb. I didn't realize it until I started putting shows on. Like, that's not what matters. People want to see exciting. Like, I could have went in, shot 100 times and missed every one of them, but it would have been more exciting than laying there.
Right.
And
You ever seen Jack Stapleton?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, exciting.
That's what promoters are looking for, bro.
Yeah.
That is like literally his like relentless worldwide thing,
Yeah.
bro. That's what people are looking for right there. And he will fight anybody.
Yeah, he don't care. He was on that card with me at Ironman, actually. He competed, and then Ellis competed against Junie on that card. So it was a good card. It was a good event. But and we had an exciting match. I had an exciting match, but there's times where I look at it and be like, oh, okay, I could have done more here. Not really for the win, but just to be more exciting.
For sure.
You know, I could have done something here. Like showmanship goes a long way.
For sure. And I mean, if you can do both, like if you can
that's the golden goose.
win, if you can talk your shit and you have like flashy highlight reel jujitsu, bro, that's the
that's the golden egg.
marketing
right there, yeah.
golden egg right there.
All right, man. It's let's start to wrap this thing up. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
Where can we find you at?
All right, guys. So I'm on Facebook, just Gannon Lang. I'm on Instagram at Gannon Lang. And then I'm going to be really doing a big push on YouTube this year as well. So definitely check out my YouTube. Throw me a subscription. But my main thing is going to be Instagram, as always. And then I'm going to eventually have those same platforms for Legion EC or Nexus. I'm going to have some conversations with Keenan and see what he's thinking about that. But yeah.
Awesome. Anything you want to tell the viewers before you go?
Other than just thank you so much for listening. This was a blast. It's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it is always a pleasure. I'm always glad to always happy to pick your brain whenever you're here and talk to you. We've become pretty good friends since we met each other. Let's tell the audience one piece of advice before you go for anything, jiu-jitsu, life, business, and anything you want to say. Give them a piece of advice before we get off here.
Market yourself. Market yourself. You have to put time and effort into making your niche, right? Like you have to separate yourself, especially if we're in jiu-jitsu or in the business of jiu-jitsu. There are so many people, everyone wants to do jiu-jitsu for a living. Literally everyone who has ever trained wants to do jiu-jitsu for a living. You have to market yourself correctly and pave your own avenue. Like we've gone over a lot of things that like you can look back on this stream and find very valuable golden eggs, if you want to call it that, to market yourself, to brand yourself. But that's the biggest thing I've learned this year.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you coming out. Thank you
man.
so much. I wish you the best of luck out in California. Hopefully you get to come back to Virginia soon, and we get some training in. Once my knees healed up, we'll trade some leg locks, stuff like that. It'll be fun.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.